So Canadians have been seeing these changes, Mr. Speaker, and they're calling for action. And I think we have to say that they have been disappointed to date, but they're hopeful that perhaps this House, in this time, in this place, when we have a wave of public opinion urging us on, when we have every political party suggesting that it wants to be seen to take action, and let's hope actually wants to take action, there's a moment in time here that's unique in Canadian history, where action can be taken. It is going to require us to put aside some of what we normally do here, and we've got to understand the need for speed. When we proposed that the C-30 committee move quickly to produce the best legislation possible, there was the comment by some members suggesting, what's the rush here? Well, I'll tell you what the rush is. A polar bear population, Mr. Speaker, soon to be placed on the endangered species list and spotted further south than ever before and in desperate straits. Jobs in our communities, whether they be forestry, fishing, hunting, these jobs are now at risk. A decrease in water levels, Mr. Speaker, in rivers and lakes that's jeopardizing not only water quality, but even the possibility of generating the hydroelectricity that we're going to need as part of the clean energy solution. So the rush is about jobs. The rush is about protecting parkland and species. The rush is about our health of our families today and our kids' future tomorrow, not only here, but all around the world. That's what the rush is all about. And I would urge all members to realize that we've got to get moving, and endless conversation and dragging out of processes is counterproductive. Mr. Speaker,
country that it is. Our history, Madam Speaker, has taught us time and time again that greatness in this country cannot be based on the type of strategies practiced by this current Conservative government. For Canada to work, we must not pit one group against each other or single out particular groups or particular people for attack and derision just because we can. In a time like this, with 250,000 jobs lost in 90 days, this House should be rising to the call of history. Workers in all regions of our country are losing out, and they need support to transition to the new economy, the one that is just waiting for a government with some vision, a Green New Deal where we achieve prosperity and security for our planet as well as our people and our economy. With dwindling fossil fuel supplies,
The honourable member for Cowichan, Malahat, Langford.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. An honour to rise today and add my voice to this debate on the government's motion, which seeks to, among other things, finally declare that we are in a climate emergency. And very interesting that the government motion quickly followed our motion, which was debated yesterday, and only today was voted down by the Liberals because they wanted to author their own weaker worded motion. But nonetheless, I'm glad that we are paying attention to this very urgent issue. Because, Mr. Speaker, there is no debate. Climate change is happening. It is human-caused, and we have to face up to that fact. Yes, our climate has changed many times over Earth's history, but it has never changed as quickly and at the rate it is now because of the very fact that we are pumping greenhouse gases into our atmosphere, and they are reaching such concentrations that it is having dire consequences for how our planet's natural processes operate. And Mr. Speaker, if we continue down this path, we are on course to reach 4 to 6 degrees of warming by the year 2100. Now, that sounds like a pretty small number, but that in fact can have quite cataclysmic consequences. I remember, hosting a town hall on a national clean energy strategy, and it looked at some scenarios, if the planet warmed by 1 degree, 2 degrees, 3 degrees, 4 degrees. When we get up to 3 to 4 degrees, we are essentially looking at the disappearance of island nations. We can say goodbye to the country of Bangladesh. Many areas of the eastern seaboard along the United States will be inundated. The state of Florida will be gone, as will the state of Louisiana. And if we think the current refugee crisis is bad, Just wait until we have upwards of 800 million to a billion people who are actually having to move. In my province of British Columbia, we are seeing real economic costs as the forest fire budget every year is eating into provincial coffers. We've heard mention of what the insurance costs will be. You know, some of the most prized real estate in the country, in Vancouver, like, you know, Vancouver International Airport is right beside the ocean, has the Fraser River flowing right by it. What are the costs going to be to save that piece of land when we're having a flooding Fraser River matched by rising sea levels? So this has real economic costs, Mr. Speaker. And in my own riding, in the month of March, the Cowichan River, which is one of 4 designated heritage rivers in British Columbia, was at 30% of where it should have been. I counted on one hand the number of days of rain we got on Vancouver Island in the month of March, a month where, you know, under normal circumstances, it would be raining pretty much every day. And that puts our wild salmon at risk because, of course, they depend on that river to spawn and continue the next line. So we do have real costs, and that's kind of what the frustrating thing is, because I feel in today's debate, there's a lot of discussion about the costs to people now, about the costs of a carbon tax, the costs of upgrading things to make sure that we are on our path to a low carbon future. But, you know, the economic costs of doing nothing are going to absolutely dwarf anything we're talking about now. I've seen some estimates that climate change could cost anywhere up to 10% of the world's GDP. So at that rate, Mr. Speaker, we're not talking about billions of dollars. We're in fact talking about trillions of dollars. So in today's motion that the Liberals have brought forward, roughly follows the same path of what we debated yesterday, with some key differences. And that number one, that there's no mention in today's motion about the Liberal government's continued subsidy of the oil and gas sector to the tunes of billions of dollars every year. Just imagine, Mr. Speaker, if we actually ended those subsidies and reinvested them in the renewable energy economy of the future. The Trans Mountain Pipeline purchase, $4.5 billion of our money, could expected, if they want to expand it, could go up to $11 billion. Just imagine if we had taken that money and put it in the renewable energy economy of the future, which, by the way, is now employing more and more Canadians. Like members of who work in the oil sands. There's this amazing organization of oil sands workers called Iron and Earth, who argue quite passionately that they have the skill set, welders, pipe fitters, electricians. They want to transfer to the renewable energy economy because they know that's where our future lies. Because, Mr. Speaker, this change is it's going to be forced on us one way or the other. So our big choice here is whether we are reactive to that change, where we are changing because it's being forced upon us, or if we seize the opportunity before us right now and make those important investments for the renewable energy economy of the future, because it is possible. We just need the political will. We have the technology. I mean, every day in my riding, I am seeing more and more electric cars. I am seeing more solar panels on roofs. We have technology that allows for tidal power generation, coupled with wind turbines, solar powers, geothermal. All of these coupled together with our existing hydroelectric facilities can produce the electricity that we need. And the battery storage life, it's getting better and better by the year. So the technology is there. We just need to have the political will to seize it and make sure it's all working together. Because that's ultimately what we need to do, is to generate more electricity. It's possible to do it in a clean and renewable way. And it's going to take an absolute Herculean effort. I'm talking an effort on par with what this country did in World War II, when we essentially retooled our entire economy, put women to work who had never really had positions in a factory before, and we basically retooled our entire economy to the war effort, so that by the end of the Second World War, this country had the 3rd largest navy in the world. We had so many people in uniform, tons of equipment, because we were united in a cause. This kind of fight is going to take the exact same type of effort, where through a combination of the government working with the private sector, but all working together towards a singular goal, we have to make that kind of investment. And there, people like to speak in this debate about how Canada's emissions are such a small part of the global average, and I agree with that, but our contribution in World War II was quite a small percentage. That didn't stop us from joining in the fight with our allies, all working together. Canada didn't stop sending soldiers because we thought our contribution was going to be insignificant. No, we were there from the get-go, and we saw it all the way to the end in 1945. That is the type of effort we're going to need, all working together and acknowledging that the problem is happening. And there are examples, Mr. Speaker. In the state of Washington, just south of where I live, Governor Jay Inslee just announced an evergreen economy plan where he's set up a green bank that's going to have $90 billion in it. It's one of the most ambitious plans ever launched in the United States, where it's going to be this wholesale effort of renovating homes to make them more energy efficient, of making sure that Washington State's electricity grid is all on renewables, a huge number of incentives to get people driving electric cars. There are examples. You can call it the Evergreen Economy Plan, a Green New Deal, whatever. I think we're all referring to the same thing. And that's exactly what I, as a New Democrat member of Parliament, want to see us do, because we don't have a lot of time left. The clock is running out. And we have to get to a point where Canada's emissions are measurably being reduced year after year, and we are currently not at that stage. So, and for me, it's, as it is with a lot of members of Parliament, it is personal. I have 3 children. I have 6-year-old twins and a 19-month-old, and I have great concerns about the world that they are going to inherit. I think, this is a moment where we indeed do have to put aside our differences to acknowledge that we have a way of doing this. And, this is not just virtue signaling, as I've heard some of my conservative friends say. If we are going to actually take those first important steps of addressing this problem, the big thing you have to do is, first of all, acknowledge that there is a problem, that there is an emergency. But you also, in order to make this not just be about platitudes, you have to back up that kind of emotion with strong, concrete actions. It can be done, Mr. Speaker. We have the people, we have the skill set, we have the technology. We just need to see the leadership in this place, this House of Commons, showing people that we actually treat this issue with the seriousness that it deserves. There's a whole generation of kids out there in high school who are looking to us. They are striking every Friday. So let's rise to the challenge, meet their expectations, come together and actually do this and give it the justice that it deserves. Thank you.
Questions and comments?